The medical bay of the Twilight Meridian hummed with the sterile efficiency of galactic standard equipment, but the atmosphere inside was anything but calm. Arden lay motionless on the recovery platform, her chest rising and falling in shallow, painful breaths. Back-to patches covered the worst of her injuries. 3 parallel gashes that had torn through her abdomen, deep enough that the ship's medic had gone silent when he first saw them. Outside the bay's transparent door, 6 figures waited. They weren't human. They were Carvathi, apex predators from a death world where survival meant being born with claws, fangs, and an instinct to kill before being killed. Their fur ranged from deep amber to ashen gray, their eyes reflective and unblinking. They were cubs only in the technical sense. Each stood over 2 meters tall, their bodies corded with muscle that could shred duraplast. The eldest among them was Rek. His fur was the color of storm clouds, and a fresh scar ran across his snout, a reminder of the battle 3 days prior. He sat closest to the door, his eyes never leaving Arden's prone form. When anyone approached, his lips curled back to reveal teeth designed to crush bone. "The human needs rest," Medical Officer Than had said, his forearms gesturing diplomatically. "You must leave." Freck's growl had been answer enough. Now as Captain Zorvith strode down the corridor toward the medical bay, his expression was thunderous. He was Zentari, tall, dignified, with skin like polished obsidian and a reputation for maintaining order through sheer authority. His voice, when he spoke, could silence entire command decks. "This is unacceptable," Zorvith announced, his tone sharp as a vibroblade. "Those creatures have been blocking access to medical for 3 standard days. I want them—" He didn't finish. Freck was on his feet in an instant, his body pressed against the transparent door, claws scraping against the surface with a sound that made every nearby crew member flinch. Behind him, the other 5 cubs rose as one, their unified snarl reverberating through the corridor like a war drum. The sound wasn't just threatening, it was primordial, the kind of noise that bypassed conscious thought and spoke directly to the survival instincts buried in every species' genetic memory. Zorvith froze mid-step. "Captain," Medical Officer Than said quietly, appearing at his elbow. "I would advise a gentler approach." "Gentler?" Zorvith's voice dropped, but it still carried authority. "I am the captain of this vessel. I will not be intimidated by—" Another snarl. This one from the smallest cub, a female named Sira whose amber eyes burned with protective fury. Zorvith's words died in his throat. 3 days earlier, the Twilight Meridian had responded to a distress beacon on the mining colony of Zareth 9. What they found was a nightmare. Kravik raiders, notorious for trafficking in exotic species, had descended on the colony's research outpost. The Carvathi cubs, orphaned and held for illegal trade, were their prize cargo. Arden had been part of the rescue team. She wasn't military. She wasn't even security. She was an environmental specialist, someone who spent her days analyzing atmospheric compositions and soil samples. But when she saw the cubs, terrified, chained, huddled in a cargo container, something in her human brain rewired itself. "Get them out," she'd told Lieutenant Var, her voice steady despite the plasma fire lighting up the corridor behind them. "We need backup first. Now." She'd moved before he could stop her, her fingers working the container's lock mechanism with frantic precision. The cubs had recoiled when the door opened, their instincts screaming predator, danger, death. But Arden had knelt down, making herself small, her voice soft. "Hey," she'd whispered. "It's okay. I'm getting you out." That's when the Kravik enforcer had appeared. A hulking brute with cybernetic limbs and a plasma cutter that could slice through starship hull. He'd raised the weapon toward the cubs. Arden had stepped between them. The plasma cutter's first strike had missed her vitals by centimeters. The second hadn't, but by then Lieutenant Var's team had arrived, and the enforcer went down in a hail of pulse fire. The cubs never forgot what they saw. A creature half their size, with no claws or fangs or natural armor, placing her fragile body between them and death without hesitation. "Captain," Than said carefully, "the Carvathi have a concept called Vethkora. It means debt of blood. When someone saves a Carvathi's life at great personal cost, they become sacred." Zorvith's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "She didn't just save them. She nearly died for them. In their culture, that creates a bond that supersedes pack, clan, even homeworld. They see her as Than searched for the word. A mother who has proven her worthiness through sacrifice. They will protect her with their lives. They're blocking medical access. They're ensuring her safety. Than gestured toward the cubs. Notice how they position themselves? They're not guarding against medical staff, they're guarding against authority. Against anyone who might raise their voice, cause stress, disturb her recovery. Freck allows me to enter because I speak softly and move slowly. But you, Captain, you represent hierarchy. Orders. Pressure. Zorvith stared at the cubs, then at Arden's sleeping form beyond the door. She's human. They're predators from a Class 12 death world. This makes no sense. It makes perfect sense, sir. Than's expression softened. Humans are strange. They see something vulnerable and their first instinct isn't to exploit it, it's to protect it. Even at terrible cost to themselves. The cubs recognize that. They recognize her. The captain stood there for a long moment, his pride warring with his pragmatism. Finally, he lowered his voice to barely above a whisper. How is she? Vreck's ears twitched. The snarling stopped. Healing, Than replied quietly. She'll make a full recovery. Another week, perhaps. Zorvith nodded slowly. Then carefully, he took one step back. Then another. The cubs watched him retreat, their bodies gradually relaxing. Keep me informed, Zorvith murmured, turning to leave. As he walked away, he heard Than enter the medical bay. His voice a gentle murmur as he checked Arden's vitals. Behind the door, Rex settled back into his vigil. His eyes never leaving the human who had shown him and his siblings what it meant to be truly fearless. In the galaxy's vast expanse, there were species with stronger bodies, sharper minds, more advanced technology, but only humans possessed this peculiar madness, the willingness to stand between the helpless and harm, regardless of the cost. And the cubs would ensure that no one ever made her pay that cost again.